Harriet graduated with Sam Jr. I remember Harriet Henderson. My brother had a giant crush on her when we were in high school. She was a homecoming queen. Now she doesn't even have a car or a husband and lives at home with her mama and 4 little boys. That girl has made a mess of her life, having babies with married men of all things. Somebody said that the last boy was fathered by your cousin Walter. Cousin Walter works at the cotton mill and has a wife and 2 children. Both my brothers worked in the factories as summer jobs during college. I escaped the factory altogether. Our parents made sure that we could have better lives and sent all of us off to college. She tells Mr. Glenn, the factory owner, about us constantly and reminds him that there is hope for the children of the poor. Where have you been all weekend calling this late? Call Sam. He was asking about you earlier, wondering what a single girl does all weekend. People, including my family, misconstrue being single as being wild and married as being settled, despite what they see and do themselves. I've just been busy, Mom, working. I do not add that I'm looking for another job, that I'm bored out of my mind because my mother will remind me of how many people make less and have had fewer opportunities. I wonder if I had stayed in Alabama, would I have been more like Harriet or Sue Ray? She thinks that I just need to settle down with a man and have a couple of babies like everyone else. Only another single woman can tell you the price of solitude. Only another single woman can recite the litany of bad blind dates that get worse the older you get. Ex-cons, confidence men, and plain, desperate men who just want to be married. As a working woman without children and my own teeth, I am a magnet for such men. My mother's concerns flow in a different direction now that schooling for us has been completed. She ignores my oldest brother Sam's alcohol and drug problem. Sister Val's been married 2 times and has a baby boy, and I am a corporate vagabond, moving from city to city on a whim, like a dandelion scattered about in a summer breeze. Stephen, the youngest, is secretive and lives the farthest away in New Orleans. My mother says if Stephen's life is illicit and sinful, she would rather not know the details. Mama, I have to tell you something. I thought I heard a car a minute ago. Val was here earlier with the baby. He's just like her. He looks a little like Robert, too, I say. My mother has practically wallpapered the house with the baby's pictures. Valerie's husband, Robert, is a jerk and has left her for another woman. In my mother's opinion, one man is pretty much like another. None of them will do right. My father has 2 boys outside of marriage that resemble him more than any of us do. We've got a choir anniversary on Sunday. Should be a nice turnout with this nice weather we're having. It should be nice this weekend, I add lamely. My mother knows that I haven't been to church in years, so we don't discuss this. Mom sings in the choir beside Vivian. More than once I have seen them share a hymn book. Occasionally they end up taking communion together, where the blood of Christ is grape Kool-Aid and the body of Christ is represented by saltines. Mama believes that in the end God will mete out the punishment for my father and Vivian. As a family, we are torn apart and asked to forgive sins that we are bound not to discuss. In doing so, we have become a party to my mother's martyrdom, and we are equally broken and damaged. I bought a new white suit for the pastor's anniversary in June. It's double-breasted and has a really long skirt. My mother and the other stewardesses, elder women in the Methodist Church, will file through the double doorway in white suits, gloves, and matching hats, like the crowns of angels. Stephen says that he'll be home next weekend with the rest of you. Mama, he won't be coming. The 4 of us are failures at marriage and relationships in general. Both Val and Sam Jr. are divorced. I have failed in every relationship I've ever had, and our younger brother Stephen has never been married, to our knowledge. I do not speak of relationships with my mother, unlike my siblings. Despite the fact that we are all beyond age 30, they keep seeking approval, which will never come. I do not believe my mother has forgiven herself for loving my father, when he has disgraced all of us, but especially her. Shame is an odd thing. We have done nothing wrong. Oh, he said he would really try this time, my mother says. I got a phone call from a friend in New Orleans this morning. She thought we knew. Knew what? Stephen was charged this morning for domestic violence against the girl he's been living with. She caught him cheating with her best friend. Eventually, my mother will blame my father. Long ago, I began agreeing with my mother's opinion of men. I have been in therapy. My sister is trying prayer. My brothers are getting high. We are a beautiful family, smiling into the camera, a portrait of success on the surface. But we will never become one of those dysfunctional TV families so notorious for airing their dirty linen in public. Silence. The Caldwell family will remain silent. Well, we know he wouldn't hurt a woman. It's all just a misunderstanding. I wait for my mother to go on. Just like his daddy, she whispers into the phone, although she is home alone. Her contempt has been years in the making. With the house empty of children, she can closely examine her hurt, like a lost treasure in her old age. Are you going down to New Orleans to help him? Mama, I can't help Stephen. He has to help himself. My mother is quiet. She will never admit that Stephen has a problem. So we'll speak of other things, like people who can't be hurt anymore. Things beyond us, like Sue Ray. Sometimes she does not shout into the phone as she picks lint from her work clothes and sneezes at the dust that is trapped in every pore, alongside the hatred she will not acknowledge because of her professed Christianity. The dog has left again. He broke the chain and took off. I wonder if my mother ever thinks she made a mistake staying with my father, if we would have been different had she left, if one of us would have figured out that love wasn't always so one-sided, so painful, a battlefield full of casualties. Were Sue Ray's parents together when she was growing up, I ask? What kind of question is that? I try to envision Sue Ray from high school, but can't quite conjure up a face. I was just asking, did she grow up with both her parents in the same house? I want to know if Sue Ray ever felt love or ever saw the face of love close up, but cannot phrase such a question. Her daddy left them when she was little. I don't think she even knows him, my mother says. What about Harriet? Harriet's daddy was a minister at the Church of God. He would turn over in his grave if he knew what kind of woman she had become. Your brother could have married that girl. As fat as she is, Sam Jr. surely doesn't have any regrets now. I have always known how to make my mother laugh. Sam can't abide fat women. That's your daddy pulling into the driveway. We've got to run and get a little grocery now. Call your brother. I'll talk to your daddy about going down there. Bye. Bye, I say to the dial tone. The last connection has been made for my mother. All of her children have made the weekly calls home. From a distance, I need to hear her stories as much as she needs to tell them. Long after she is hung up, her voice lingers in my head. I envision my mother filling out her days, bar-tacking the big men's pants for little over minimum wage, yet knowing her life has purpose. She will pray and carry on. More and more I am afraid that the day will come when there will be silence on her line and no more chances to know how Sue Ray and the rest of us can stand to go on. The end.
Brenda C. Wilson is an unpublished novelist.